She is a master NLP practitioner and coach, but in 2012, she had to go through some really rough stuff. But I'm going to have her tell you about that because she's going to tell it better than I will. With a heart of gold, welcome to the show, June Collins.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Your story is heartbreaking, but it can be so helpful for so many people. So I'm really happy to have you. So, June, where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Pompano Beach, Florida. Most people, when I say Fort Lauderdale, Florida, they know where it is, Broward County. That's where
Okay.
I'm originally from.
Very cool. And I want you to talk to me a little bit about your book cover before we start getting into what's in the book. I love it. I have seen it. I've looked at it as soon as you told me when we were off air. I remembered seeing it. It's like, yes, I know this one. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So when obviously child loss is kind of one of those things that nobody wants to talk about. And it's one of those things that I knew that I needed to grab a mom that was going through it and have them stop. So I started looking online and trying to find different things that I liked and just get some ideas. So basically with the book cover, I found this picture, and I think it was a painting actually, and it was of like children running into clouds. And I just really enjoyed it. They were coming from the woods or something. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but so when I wanted to do my book covered, I wanted the kids coming from down here on earth to heaven, what I would consider heaven in the light. So I put that in there, and then the part of the book where it looks like it's kind of ripped open, I wanted to put that in there just because it's like the symbolism of basically your heart getting ripped open whenever you go through child loss. And then like the last touch of it was I was like, the book is for women, so we're gonna make it pink. So obviously we made it pinks and purples, and it was so funny too because the guy that created it, it was actually a dude that created it, and I'm like, it's got to be pink. He's like, pink, and I'm like, yeah, pink. And I sent him some color palettes, and yeah, so that's kind of where it came from, my idea of what my child looked like going through the light. And I wanted it to, another thing I wanted to do in it is I wanted to have different nationalities, and I wanted to have kids of different age ranges and disabilities because obviously my son was in a wheelchair. So that's where it came from.
I think it's absolutely just gorgeous. And if anybody wants
Thank
to see
you.
this and they're only listening, they're not able to watch it, I will have links in the show notes where you guys can go to her website. The website's gorgeous too, by the way. It's amazing.
Thank you.
You have come through so much to be where you are, but what did that journey look like? What is it that you had to go through, and how did you heal from all of that?
Yeah, so my journey actually started in 2019. I got pregnant with my son, and basically, long story short, the pregnancy was going fine, but at the end, I ended up having a complete placental abruption, which, I ended up losing like 3.5 pints of blood, and obviously he wasn't breathing. Well, because of the complete placental abruption, obviously we both lived, but he had special needs, a lot of special needs because of it. And, it's kind of, I was glad that we were alive, but the whole aspect of I'm going to raise a normal child, and he's going to be the star football player and an A student and everything. Obviously, that changed the day that I had a complete placental abruption. So we had to move into how do you take care of a special needs child, the medication, and just kind of go to that extreme because I mean, God bless anybody that has a special needs child. And so we were living that lifestyle, and we finally got him on the right medication, and we knew, like, with all his tics, we knew how to handle it. We finally got to that point. And the doctors told us when he was born, if he lives the first 24 hours, that he'll live for a while, but one day he's going to go to sleep and he's never going to wake up. And for me, he obviously lived the 24 hours, but for me, I had 10 years in my head. I always thought 10 years was how long I was going to have him. Well, one night he was almost 2.5. He was 2 years and 3 months and some days. We had to take shifts. That's how we did it. We took shifts for him because he woke up several times in the middle of the night and he had a feeding tube and all these special needs stuff. And I woke up to my husband screaming. And I went downstairs and I asked him what was wrong. And he said Caleb wasn't breathing. So I ran into Caleb's room. I grabbed Caleb off the bed and I started CPR on him. I did CPR on him until the paramedics arrived. And after the paramedics arrived, they took him, and obviously we finally got to the hospital, and they decided that they came in and they said, we've done everything we possibly can for him, but your son has passed away. And that started my journey with child loss, but it was just the beginning of my journey because I was so angry. And this is a Christian podcast, so I want to mention this. I was very angry with God because I thought that him living through his birth and me living through his birth with all the blood that I had lost, that was the trial that I was going to have. And I thought that was like the only thing I was going to have. And I got so angry because I was like, why did I live? Why did I live and he had to go? And it took me many, many years to finally decide that that's just the way it was meant to be for me. There's some other purpose. And that was kind of the start of it. It was the start to rebuild my life and my belief in God and my understanding and trusting him again. That was a big thing that I went through with my child loss, obviously, along with everything else. But that was one of the biggest trials, and it's only been not so recently. I say recently, but it's been like 12 years now almost. But it's been a few years back, but it was a long time before I made peace. And I think that a lot of people that go through child loss do shy away from the God, and it's all part of it. But just remember to come back to him. It's part of it, and realize it's just part of your plan in your life, your reality, your purpose.
Right. A crisis of faith is very much a natural
Yeah.
trauma reaction that people have.
hmm
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I did is I played the victim. I was the victim, like everybody was against me, and God was against me, and my family was against me, and all these people that wanted me to get over child loss were against me. And it's not that, well, minus God, it's not that they wanted me to get over child loss. They just wanted me to go back to the way I was. And at the time I didn't understand it, but at the time and going through it and years into my loss, I finally realized I'm never going to be that person again. And it's not, there's some things that I wish that I still had before my trauma. I call it my trauma. But there's a lot of good things that have come out of my trauma too. Me growing in Christ, growing and being strong, and just my life in general. But it was a long road to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. It is with trauma. I mean, that's the
hmm
nature of it. And it's an awful thing to have to
Yeah.
go through any kind of trauma, but a parent should never have to bury their child. And I know you've heard that a million times. The fact that anybody would expect you to just move on with your life after going through something like that
Mhm.
seems so heartless, but they just don't understand it because they haven't been through it.
Yeah, and I look at it, and there's a part in the book that kind of talks about it. It's like when we're driving down the road, we're trying to get to work, and we're stopped by a funeral procession. We stop on the side of the road, we're by the funeral procession. We might ask, wow, I wonder what happened. I wonder who it is, and then we move on in our day. We move on, it passes, we move on, we hurry up and go to work because now we're late because we're usually running on time. and we just, move on with our life. But for those people that were in that funeral procession, it bothers them for a long time. And I look at that with friends and family that go through the loss. They go through the death, the funeral, and then they go through a few months of trying to help you and being there for you, and then it's silent, and you feel so alone. But everybody goes back to their life, and it's just like that funeral procession. You just move on with your life, and they don't want you really to get over it. I think one big thing is they don't know what to say. I mean, it's a child, it's out of the normal cycle. It's not, and I say this in the book too, it's when we're given a fairy tale, we're supposed to, be kids, grow older, find this wonderful Prince Charming, get married and then die when you get older. But when you die as a child, that's what freaks people out, because nobody understands what to say and what to do.
What would you suggest somebody do or say if they have a friend or a family member that's lost a child?
So, it's not what you say, it's just being there. Because I can remember, and I can tell you this from my experience, where I worked for a drug task force at the time. And I can remember the guys, I worked with all guys, they came over at night and just sat with us, my husband and I, for hours at a time after work. And they did that until I went actually back to work. And I can't remember what they talked about. I remember they were laughing, talking, and having a great time, but it was just, they were there. It's nothing that you can say. I can remember times in my loss where, these people had no idea, like the doctor that actually saved Caleb, he came to his funeral, and he just said, "How are you doing?" And I said horrible, and I gave him a hug, and I cried. And just him being there meant the world. And then my cousin, who he doesn't do funerals at all, obviously came to Caleb's funeral, and all he said was, parents should never have to bury a child. And that's all he said to me. And he sat with me on that bench, just silent. And that means so much. It's not knowing what to say, it's just being there. I can remember some of my friends just saying, "Hey, I don't know what to say, but I'm here. If you just want to sit, I'll sit." And that's just the most important thing, just to, "Hey, I'm just going to come over and sit. We can watch TV, we can do whatever." And that meant more to me than anything. I live in the South now. I live in, Georgia now. So like they bring food, and like they come over and they want to talk, and, the big Southern thing. And that meant more to me than anything else anybody could do for me, because really they couldn't do anything for me but be there. And just like I said, I've sat with people and didn't say a word, and it just meant the world. And I think everybody should know, just being there means the world to them. It's not what you say, it's not what you do, it's just being there.
I love that. I've had some friends recently that have gone through some pretty terrible loss in their family. It's not quite the same,
Mhm.
but they need that. They need that
Mhm.
in-person comfort of somebody to just exist in that same space as them for a little while.
Mhm. And I have my boss at the time, still to this day, every day that the anniversary of Caleb's death day, he'll just text me. And same thing with my new husband now, because I got divorced from my other husband, Caleb's dad. He'll just text message me, "Hey, I'm thinking about you today. Just want to let you know I'm thinking about you today." And I know what the text means. Everybody else doesn't know what it means, but I know what it means. And my ex-boss did that, and so does my new husband. He does that, and he doesn't understand. He's never gone through child loss.
Wow. Wow. That's beautiful. I love that you found somebody who's able to support you in all this. What did it
Yeah.
look like to heal from this? I mean, what was that journey? Did you have to go through therapy, through counseling and classes, anything like that?
So I am an extreme introvert. I'm like the worst introvert that's out there. So when you hear about what do you do when you lose a child, they're like, group counseling, therapists, and be with people. And I'm like, ugh, I'm like, no, not me. So obviously I didn't want to do the group counseling because I just couldn't see myself being in a group with anxiety of, oh my God, all these people. I did do therapy one time. I went to a therapy session one time and I was like, this just isn't for me. So then I was left with, how do I heal? I don't know how to do this. So I just started reading everything you could think of. I I have certifications in neurolinguistic programming, cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavior therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy. And I just started educating myself about it. One of the things that I did, I was one of those people that were like, you know what, I don't want to deal with grief. I'm just going to throw it in a chest and lock it up. So what I did was I started my master's degree in forensic psychology, which is the study of the mind. And it's the criminal mind, but it's the study of the mind. And that's kind of what kickstarted, wow, your mind really makes you think this way. And I started reading everything I possibly could. And then I learned myself. When I went through my loss, my values, my morals, my beliefs, everything changed. And I had to relearn myself. And between relearning myself, realizing and learning and educating myself on the mind, that's how I started to do it. Okay, what's this trigger thing they're talking about? With my personality, how do I handle grief versus other personalities? Because obviously there's 16 personalities. And that's how I educated myself, and that's how I started going through it. And then I was like, okay, I got this. I got a basic system on how I know what my mind's trying to do. Now, how do I fix that? And that's when I started dissecting my triggers, and I started looking at, different aspects of my life and what I was going to keep in my life and what I wasn't. And I started looking at manifestation stuff. And I started doing that. And then I started looking at like signs. I really believe in signs, and signs from God and signs from my child. And spirituality, I started that was about the time that I started, this is what it is. I got to, it's always going to be there. I'm accepting that it's always going to be there, but I'm not accepting that he's gone. And I started, adding more things, but it was little by little that I started adding things in. But the biggest thing I did was educate myself on what they say is important and what they say that you're supposed to do. And then I just started taking piece by piece. And then I would find moments, and I always say moments of happiness, just like moments of things that would make me happy. And it wasn't like, I started doing this stuff and every day was a happy day, because I still have my bad days. But and this month is horrible because Caleb's birthday is the 26th of this month. So on November 26th. So, I know when I need not to put too much on my plate because of this month. And I just learned me and what I was going to do. And then after that, it was okay, 2 hours of happiness. Oh, half a day of happiness. And then after I got to that point, then I started getting to, okay, I'm having one of those days. I can feel it. I just know that I'm not in I say a great mood. But it's not really a mood thing. It's just like I can feel that I'm not where I need to be. And I started trying to figure out how can I make myself happy. And that was with videos and with just getting up and going and doing something maybe, or just different things that I had to do um, to make myself get out of that's I call the slum. Because I look at child loss as it's like a roller coaster, and eventually you get to maintenance. And I like weight loss. I think of weight loss, you're trying to lose weight, and then you hit maintenance. But that doesn't mean that you don't fail at it again. So I look at it like child loss. It's like up and down, up and down, up and down, and you're on maintenance, but you can still fall down and have those bad days. And but you just have to know what you have to do to pick yourself back up to get back to that maintenance. And that's kind of where I live my life right now in maintenance. But like obviously for November, and obviously the month that he died is, I have to check myself and make sure I'm all right.
And now you do this to help other people too, which is amazing. I
Mhm.
mean, you recognize that you're still in a place of healing yourself. And I think that's
Mhm.
key. We have to recognize that this isn't something that just goes away. This is going to be a trauma that impacts us for the rest of our lives. There is no magic wand. And
Mm-mm.
recognizing that, and then being able to reach out and reach your hand out for somebody else, to be able to pull them out of this darkness and to show them
Mhm.
there is hope. This is a beautiful thing. What inspired you to know that you were at a point in your life where you could look beyond your own darkness and reach out for someone else?
Yeah, I knew early on I wanted to write a book. I mean, it was within months of him dying, I knew I wanted to write a book, but I knew I wasn't in the place to write it. And the book would have been totally different if I would have wrote it, 5 years in, versus starting it in 10 years in. Um, but it started by after you lose a child, you start realizing how many people have lost a child. They come to you and tell you that they've lost a child, or like obviously everybody's on social media. Oh, warriors for such and such, they lost a child, or you see your friend lost a child. And I started out by just reaching out to them just to say, hey, you're not alone. Because I thought I was alone at first. I thought I was the only one going through it. And although, like, it's like you said, not a one size fits all type thing with child loss, because we're all different. Our child loss is different, how it happened and the age that they pass away in. It's totally different, but I wanted them to know that they're not alone. Hey, there's hundreds and thousands of us out here. And that's how it started. I started reaching out to friends. First, I did friends, and then it was just like, oh, this is a stranger, and I saw this because I'm friends with a friend that knows her, and they posted it. So I'm gonna reach out to this complete stranger. And obviously they were open to it and everything. And I didn't say much to them. I just, hey, my name is June. I just want to let you know that I'm thinking about you. I lost my son back in 2012. If you ever want to talk. And most of the time they just ask me simple questions, kind of like I asked the first person that I found, that called me about losing a child. I just asked they asked me, how do they pass and how do you do that? How do you heal? And that's my whole thing. Like, honey, you don't heal, you just learn how to deal with it. It's always going to be there. Don't think that one day you're going to wake up and you're going to heal. But that's how it started. And then I was at like such a crossroad with, the career that I'm in, and not feeling that it was my purpose. I guess you can say that. I just didn't feel that it was my purpose. So I was like, well, give me signs, because I told you I was big on signs. Give me signs about, you know, should I start this group for these women that have lost children. And I asked for signs. I asked, God, give me a sign, and Caleb, give me a sign. And I would like to say that I got little signs like where we live. At the time, there was cardinals everywhere, and obviously cardinals are associated with someone passing. And I can remember one like pecking my window. Like I parked my car and the it jumped on my window and kept pecking my window. I'm like, okay, this is pretty obvious. And so I started that group, and that's kind of how it started, and it just kind of blew up from there. And today, this was back in 21. 21 was when September of 21, the end of 21, I started the group, and now I think there was 1,300 women in there, all that had lost children, and it was just a big group. And, obviously I do kind of like a group coaching thing, which is hilarious in that group because I am not, I'm the introvert, remember, but they're great. They're just really amazing women, and they're all in different walks of their child loss, and they'll ask questions, and they'll post things, and they'll post their children. And like the big question the other day that I posed in there was, hey, have you started planning for the holidays yet? Because it's all about planning and getting your mindset ready for the holidays, because they're about to be rough. So we started talking about that. That was just one question we talked about in there. But anyway, that's a I just went all around that, but that's how it kind of started, was just me asking friends and then strangers just on the internet and then starting the group. That's how.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I understand that you have something specific that you do whenever you have a win in life. How do you keep
A
track of all
what?
the good stuff?
I'm a big journaler. I journal a lot. And I look at journaling in different ways. One is to record different times, because a lot of times, and I am the world's worst about it. I'm the one that does it all the time. I'll try to fix my triggers or my bad things, my negative in my life, and I won't rejoice when I have wins. So I like to journal, and I like to get all of those things written down on a piece of paper for two reasons. One is to record it, because you're not going to remember everything in your life. And then number two is on those bad days to go back and be like, man, I'm not that dark anymore. Because I went really dark. I went to a really dark place that I hope that I never get to, which I know I know what to do not to get to that space anymore. But yeah, so I journal, and it doesn't have to be like pages and pages of stuff a day. Sometimes it's only four sentences, you know. I did it, I was writing, and then awareness. That's another big thing that I do, is just make myself aware of it. Like it's been a while back now, but I was riding down the road and I'm like, you know what? I'm having a really good day today. And it wasn't anything special. I mean, it wasn't anything special, but I was like, I'm in a really good place. And I make sure that I'm aware of it, because and this goes for anything in life. We have a way of looking at the negative in life, and we don't take enough time to look at the positive that we've gotten. And then like I said, I'm the world's worst at it. I always look at everything I can do better, but sometimes I just need to be happy with, where I'm at so far, and feel accomplished. But journaling is one thing that I do.
That's awesome. I'm really big on journaling too, and always really have been.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. I,
it, Mhm.
I wasn't for a long time, but I finally got in, and then everybody's like, "Oh, journal," and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna journal. I mean, I'm like, no, I'm not that kind of girl. But it really does. And like I said, I always thought when I first started, and I thought before I even tried it, was like I had to write these huge elaborate things in there, and you don't have to. It's just to document how you're feeling. So.
Well, it's come to that time in the episode now where I ask my most favorite question. It's the last question, unfortunately, but it's my favorite one. What is one thing that you truly love about yourself that's not related to your physical appearance?
I love how resilient I am. I'm very resilient. Although I am that introvert, I'm very resilient. I know now more than ever, that no matter what's thrown at me, I can overcome it. And I think that right there, knowing that I'm resilient and that no matter what it is, I'm gonna be okay. It might be a long road, but I'm gonna be okay. And so resilience, just being resilient, is the thing that I think is my strongest trait too.
If you've enjoyed tonight's episode, please make sure you check out the episode description. You'll find links there on how you can learn more about this guest, links to connect with them on social media, and how to support the podcast. Remember, I don't get paid to do this. My boss is a bit tight fisted, but I can say that. I work for myself.